All right, we are recording, and I want to welcome you all today. We have got a fun meeting today with Mr. Greg Dempsey, who currently is a representative for Music and Arts, and that is a company that services lots of communities and lots of students in different ways, including providing services to Mike's Music in town. And Greg's got a great story. So stay muted for me. If you want to add something in the chat, go ahead. And we are going to start with an interview with Greg here. So Greg, if you want to unmute and say hi to everybody, and then I'll moderate the chat as we're talking, and then we'll see if there's any questions as we go along the way. I see Greg on here. I just need to, there, we might get unmuted. Give me just a second, folks. I think we lost Greg. He'll jump back in. In the meantime, and I'll do these announcements later on too for people who have to join a little bit late, but we've got a booster meeting. We do that every year in May, scheduled for next Tuesday. Obviously, that's going to be online. We have a Zoom meeting set up for that. So have your parents check their emails if they want to be part of that booster meeting. And that is Tuesday at 7 o'clock. If there's any 8th graders on this chat right now, we've got an additional one at 6 o'clock because typically 8th graders that are coming into high school band have a lot of questions that the high schoolers already know the answer to, so I don't want to waste their time on that. All right, so Greg's back on. Greg, if you can hear me, let's jump in. You can unmute your mic and whatnot, and we'll say hi to the kids. Maybe. I'm texting him right now. How are you guys? We're waiting for that to work out. If you want to jump in on the chat and tell us what you're thinking about your any of that marching band music, any particular track seem exciting? Feel free to chime in. Chloe likes Fire It's Hard on Flute. Oh, yeah, you can call me Al. That is a classic. Greg's having connectivity issues, so he's going to join us via phone once he gets dialed in, and then we'll be able to talk with him. Spain is my favorite. That's from Cadence. Yeah, yeah. Nathan appreciates the Hendrix. I know this. Oh, yeah, that's definitely a worry we've all got. And I know we have to figure out what's happening with the football season, the school year, all that stuff. We're going to have to wait and see what's going on in the world with that. But that doesn't mean we can't keep practicing and playing and all that stuff. So. Hey, I just saw Greg. I think he's working.
We'll try it this way.
Greg.
Sorry about that.
We hear you. It's okay. We all get technical difficulties at times. We got you.
Okay. Again, apologize about that.
No. All right, folks. Well, this is Greg Dempsey, and we're gonna go back and forth a little bit and chat with Greg. And if you think of something to ask him once you figure out what he knows and does, feel free to chime in on the chat, and we'll go back and forth, and I'll ask him questions as I see them. But for now, welcome, Greg, and if you'd like to just take a second, introduce yourself to all the kids.
Well, hello, everybody there in Ashland land. My name is Greg Dempsey. I am actually the Northern Ohio School Services Rep for Music and Arts. I have been for about 3 years now. Prior to that, I had owned a music store for about 22 years. In addition to that, I played in a rock and roll band, and had a lot of fun with that, and got to travel around the U.S. quite a bit, and got to see a lot of cool things and meet a lot of cool people and do a lot of neat things. So I'm definitely excited to share some of those experiences and some of the things that I've learned through owning the business, and things I've learned through music and arts, and just all the different things that happens as you progress in life. There's a lot of life experiences, a lot of cool things out there.
Awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning. What made you join band, and what was school band like for you? What instrument did you play? All that kind of stuff.
I got my first. We'll start with the first real drum set, as opposed to the paper. I think it was Mickey Mouse drum that I got when I was like 3. I don't even remember getting it. I remember drawing on the side of the head with a marker, which I got in trouble for. But I was super young at that age. But the first real drum set I got, I think I was in 3rd grade, and it was a 4-piece. I believe it was called a Maxwin, but it was made by Pearl at the time. But it was a real like 4-piece drum set. No, it was the real deal at that time. So that's kind of where it started. And then where I went to school, band started in 5th grade. So nowadays there's some schools that start in 5th, some not till 6th. There's some that I deal with now that don't really start till 7th. So it's kind of all over the map. But when I started, it was 5th grade. Mrs. Moon was my elementary school band director, and then kind of continued from there. But yeah, I started with percussion and just kind of kept going from there.
That's awesome. And did you have opportunities to play in high school? I know in Ashland when we're talking drum sets specifically, we've got lots of opportunities, sometimes in concert band, depending on the piece, in our jazz bands. And we have extra things like our musical pits and things like that, like just in the school district itself.
Well, I went to, I'm from Elyria, so I went through Elyria schools, and there, at the time, it actually just switched here a couple of years ago, but at the time, marching band did not start until your sophomore year. 9th grade, high school band, or high school was 9 through 12, but there were so many kids in the district and in the school, and the tradition kind of thing was that the freshmen still had a concert band, basically. And so you didn't, or JV band, they called it. But the JV or freshman band folks did not participate in marching band. That was for 10, 11, and 12. And then during concert season, they had their own concert and symphonic bands and stuff as well. So it was a little bit different. Now that just changed like 3 years ago, maybe now, where they've just started letting freshmen or combine the entire band. So now it's just band. as opposed to ninth grade or freshman band or JV band and then varsity band. So the fun experiences of the marching band and all that stuff didn't start till 10th grade for me. There was a jazz band, and honestly, I don't remember if I was even involved in that. To be honest, I think maybe 1 year, but I was also in choir, and there in Elyria, their like select group is called the Madrigals. I don't remember. I don't know what it is there, but so I was part of that as well. My senior year, I think it was. So that was kind of, your better so-called better singers. You had to try out and audition for that. And then my senior year of high school was also the first year that I played in the pit orchestra or pit band for the musical, and it was South Pacific. Was the first one I had done, and then I had played for the Leary High Pit musical for probably 17 of the next 20 years. There was only a handful that I missed. So that was something I always enjoyed doing. I've done other pits for other schools and stuff as well through the years. But it's your alma mater, it's your home school, so I kind of always went back to that one every time I got asked. But awesome. the last couple of years I have not. But that's So that was that.
So we've got a lot of students here that enjoy band, love band, like playing their instruments, like playing music. And once they leave high school, I know there's a small percentage that'll want to major in music when they leave school, but the larger percentage just loved what they did in high school. They're going to go on to other things, but maybe still want to play their instrument, whether it be out on a gig or in college while they're majoring in something else. So maybe you could talk about your path after you left high school, and that might show some different options for our students too.
So after high school, so you graduate high school basically with most folks when you're about 18. I actually started I graduated in 1993. In 1995, September of 95 is actually when I opened my music store. So I was 20, basically, and kind of went right into that. How that all started was that I was gigging and playing with some local bands and kind of some people around. And at that time, believe it or not, for you younger folks on the call, pretty much all your students, there really wasn't much of an internet yet. And you really couldn't just surf the web and find what you were looking for, or be able to ask or find people, find people online that knew the answers, or you could find the answers to the questions that you had, be it about a product or a career, in this case, career path or job or whatever. It was a little more difficult back then. We had catalogs, and if you got lucky, if you called customer service of whomever company catalog you were looking at, if you got lucky, you actually got to talk to somebody who knew something about whatever it was that you were actually calling about. So back then, there wasn't anybody around the area that knew anything about percussion stuff. So that's kind of how I got involved. I'm like, all right, well, my parents had owned a business in town. And so I was familiar with small business. I kind of grew up in it. So I kind of spoke to them and said, hey, what are the chances of opening up a drum shop kind of thing? Because that's kind of how it started. Because for me, it was like an hour drive each direction to get to the nearest music store that I felt that had anything percussion related or had anybody working there that knew anything about percussion. So they said, sure. So we started the music store, or started the drum shop primarily. And there were a couple other music stores in town at that time, but within the first couple of years, they closed due to either retirement or, actually, I think it was all retirement, both of them. So that quickly transitioned what I was doing into more than just percussion stuff, because then I had people come in and asking about reeds and asking about valve oil and asking about guitar strings. So that's kind of how that started. I didn't go to college. I took some college courses, so I guess I kind of did, but I never really majored in anything or really went that route. I went kind of winged it for a year or two, and then was like, all right, let's do this whole music store thing. And that's kind of the direction that I went with it.
That's kind of great that you saw something you loved and enjoyed and decided to create a path that you could make a career out of. And maybe at the time you weren't sure if it was a full career, but you knew it was something you loved and wanted to go for it.
No, absolutely. You don't know anything. I mean, I'm honestly for you guys in class there, things change, and some of you are going to go to college and get a degree in something. And honestly, within a few years, you may not be in that field anymore. You may be doing something completely different. And right now, you will never think that that's going to happen. Well, it might. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of you may go, college just isn't for me. You may go to a trade school. In our industry, there's instrument repair trade schools. There's like Red Wing is a big one. It's probably one of the most popular ones. But so there's options out there. For some of you, college is definitely right up your alley. And for some of the other folks, maybe not. Maybe finding, again, a trade. My parents had owned an appliance repair business. So I grew up working on, your refrigerator, dryer, and all that stuff. That's what I kind of grew up doing all through school. And I used to go into people's homes to fix the stuff in their homes with my dad. And when I was in like middle school or junior high in high school, I'd ride with dad. Let's go do some service calls. So there are careers and fields and stuff out there that may or may not involve college or your traditional college. There's trade schools. If you're into, I know, Mr. Carl, you do a lot of stuff with lab work and recording and doing that stuff like that. There's a Full Sail down in Florida that does a lot with producing and engineering and all that stuff. So with music, guys, it's one of those few fields where you can marry it to a ton of other career fields. But it starts with joining band, joining choir, when you're young. But then as you get older, you may want to go into college for music. You may not, but you may still love music. So you might be able to look into things like, if you like law, there's entertainment attorneys. There's copyright attorneys. Every time you write a song, it's good to get it copyrighted. That way, no one steals it. Or if they do try to steal it, you can still get paid for it. It's called royalties.
Well, I know of 3 people on this chat right now, and there's probably more, that when they graduate, either this year or next year, depending on their age level, there's one that wants to go into music performance. There's one that wants to go into music technology. There's one that wants to go into music retail and repair. And so it's good to hear that those jobs are out there and those are real things that people can do.
There's a lot, even if you're into like fashion, when you look at, so there's more to music than just your local band teacher, choir teacher. Mr. Carl, I've spoken about this. There's more to it. There's more than your local people that and then the stars that you see on TV. There's a lot of stuff in between. There's a lot of other career fields within that. You can look at music therapy if you're thinking about the healthcare field, which is kind of a big thing right now. There's music therapists out there. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of different things. Again, if you're into fashion, there's fashion consultants that people deal directly with the entertainment industry. There's every let me see if I got an example here. But if you look at a box of reeds, that you have, somebody designed that box. The artwork that's on that box, somebody designed it. So, I mean, there's things like that. A drum head box. Somebody designed the artwork in the design of that box to make it look cool.
Well, and we just got like new marching band uniforms this year, and there was a whole design team that took our ideas and made them a reality, and that's kind of neat to still sort of be in the music field, but
absolutely. And if you talk to probably 99% of them, it all started in fifth grade band or fifth grade orchestra. That's where it started from.
Well, I want to jump in on one of these chats. Kids, if you keep getting, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. We've got one from Nathan. You had mentioned earlier about gigging around, and Nathan is a great little guitar player. He's in our 8th grade. He'll be in high school next year, nice. And he's been gigging for a while because he just loves to do it. So his question is, do you have a lot of musicians who helped you? And he likes that community of musicians. And about how you said you got to get out and gig different times and go different places with your music.
Yeah, so with starting out, you typically play in what's called a cover band. Basically you start playing music that you hear on the radio. That's probably kind of where most people start. Up in I'm closer to Cleveland, so there's probably just a lot more places to play and more options. So yeah, I got to meet a lot of local Cleveland musicians, and if you go to jam nights and stuff like that as you get older, you get to meet a lot of these people and get to hear different stories and different things. And guys, you can learn. Always keep this in mind. Always. You can learn something from every other musician. Whether it's the instrument that you play or not, doesn't matter. You can learn something from every other musician. It's going to be one of two things. Either A, you're going to go, wow, that was really cool. I really need to learn how to do that. I need to find out what that was and how do I do that? Or two, you look at your buddy and go, dude, kick my rear end if I ever do what that person just did on stage, because that was stupid. Either way, you just learned something, right? So I'll always kind of keep an open mind, and with music, it's never ending. You never get to the point to where you know it all, because there's always a different version. There's a different way of doing it. So never ever get to the point to where you think you know it all, because if you do, you're right. You're done. Your learning is done. You've told yourself that you've learned it all. And with music, and with a lot of other things, but music especially, you should never ever get to that point.
Wow.
So yes, I'm sorry. Go back to Nathan's question a little bit. So yes, there's been many different musicians. I was fortunate enough to kind of travel around the country and play a lot of cool places. Meet a lot of cool musicians. I got to play gigs with a lot of bands that you guys are probably too young. Some you may know, like Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, stuff like that, Motley Crue. But there's other bands like Winger, The Fix. I'd have to go back through. But yeah, I mean, met a lot of cool folks. Some musicians and some people that you see on TV are they're all human. So I've had some gigs and some groups where I've played multiple gigs with, and one night they'll be the coolest person you never want to meet, and then 6 months later when you see them again, they are a jerk. I mean, they're human too, and you see these folks on TV. Got to remember, most of them started in 5th grade band too, and they have good days and bad days like the rest of us.
That's great. I want to transition ahead. So now, a couple decades later, you've moved on to work for Music and Arts, which I already mentioned to the kids is affiliated with lots of places around the country. A lot of the websites that they might hop on are going to be getting things all from the same place. And one of those places is actually right in town here. Mike's Music gets a huge majority of its supplies and needs from Music and Arts. So we have that local connection. but it would be interesting to hear, like, now that we're in lockdown and I'm encouraging kids, I'm not there to help them. Your company that you work for has really decided to roll out some things that can help these kids, not just maintain their level, but get better and achieve more while they're stuck at home.
Yeah, so none of us had ever, a lot of us may not have even heard the word of pandemic before, or maybe heard of it and not knew exactly what it entailed. Well, we're obviously living through it right now. And with the closure of many things, so with Music and Arts, Music and Arts is the largest retailer in the country, if not the world, of musical instruments and gear and stuff like that. So we have 200-ish stores nationwide, corporate stores, music and art stores. And then we have a slew of what we call affiliates. And Mike's Music is an affiliate. So he runs his own business. He's an independent business. And then his rental or his instruments that he rents, many of them come through us, through Music and Arts. So that's kind of the connection and tie there. He can also, we also have a wholesale department. That's a whole nother thing, be a whole different conversation on the business side of things. But primarily it's the tie with the rental instruments. And so with the lockdown, our corporate stores do a lot of lessons. And with that, we can't do that in the store. So we've transitioned to a lot of Zoom lessons. All the Zoom lessons are recorded, and so it's safe and all that stuff. But that's kind of a cool thing because you can take lessons from any one of our instructors anywhere in the country. So that's kind of a unique thing. If you have a cousin or somebody in wherever, Texas, and they're like, my private instructor is awesome. Wish you could take lessons for them. Well, guess what? Now you can. Or, if you move from someplace else. The pandemic, although it has caused a lot of problems, I've also seen a lot of great things come from it already. Even like what we're doing now. How often would you have done this 6 months ago? The technology is there for us to be able to do a lot of things that we're not accustomed to doing. Doesn't make it bad. It's just different, and everyone needs to continue to learn and adapt to, whatever the new norm is going to be.
Wow. Well, I think I would not be doing my job if I had a room full of music students here and a music rep if I didn't ask you about the different options with instruments. We've got lots of students here that were blessed with parents that allowed them to join band, and they were given an instrument. Maybe they bought it new, maybe they rented it, maybe it was grandma's old clarinet from the attic. But now, being in high school, they've been playing that instrument for 4, 5, 6+ years. And I always like to recommend to students that maybe they want to consider an upgrade. And I don't know how you approach that with your company, if you'd like to talk a bit about that. But I know on my end, I equate it to like if you're playing like on the city soccer league and you buy your cleats from Walmart, they're going to serve you well as a 10, 12-year-old playing soccer. But if you make it onto the varsity soccer team, you're probably going to want to go to a specialty shop to get the right cleats that'll do the right job with you raising your skill level that way. And I feel something like that is true of instruments too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so with who was it, Nathan, that had asked, you said he plays guitar and stuff around. Well, I would kind of pose that, or this analogy kind of to him or anyone who plays guitar that knows about guitars and stuff, that, flutes and clarinets are the same as guitars, I guess. I kind of use this analogy. A lot of times we'll start with like a Squier Strat, the kind of the bottom of the barrel of the Fender line. They're owned by Fender. But the Squiers are a pretty inexpensive beginning guitar. As you get better, you're probably going to upgrade. You're going to go to a Mexican Strat or an American Strat or whatever, and the price goes up. Well, horns and things are the same way. You start off with what we consider an entry level instrument, which is fine for getting started. And for some folks that are just kind of the casual player, they'll be good, through middle school, and some folks all the way through high school. For other folks that are really excelling, and for the ones that are, especially the ones that are thinking about going on and continuing, into college, then upgrading the instrument becomes, I don't want to say vital, but pretty close. Because there is, for those of you who have tried out different instruments, you can attest to this. There is a definitive difference when you take a beginner, we'll even say a trumpet. When you take a beginner trumpet and you go in and you try, a Bach Stradivarius, or a Yamaha Zeno or something. I mean, there are, it feels different, it plays different, it sounds different, looks different, not radically different, a little bit different. The weight might be different, and there's definitive things. Even like with mouthpieces, even if you can't upgrade the horn as a whole because it might get expensive, just upgrading the mouthpiece makes a huge difference. Huge difference, and it is stuff that you don't really may or may not realize. But once you're able to try a better mouthpiece or a better reed, you'll begin to see the difference. You'll hear the difference as well.
That's awesome. I just sent a text out to Avery, Chase, Caden, Lily. I know all of you, there's probably more on here, have upgraded instruments in the past. If any of you want to turn your mic on for a sec and tell us if that was a good thing, what happened when you did that, how that
a testimony.
Yeah,
we need a testimony.
See if any of them are brave enough to unmute their mics. Nobody's brave.
Okay, so hold on, so Kayla, you had a question.
Yes.
What grade are you in now?
She'll be joining 9th grade next year.
And you have the same trombone. Do you have the same mouthpiece? You can either type that or say that answer. Well, I guess I kind of answer it too. Oh, you there?
Yeah.
Right.
I had gotten a new mouthpiece this year. I got the same size, but I just had gotten a new one since the other one was too long.
So do you know offhand, is it a 12C or 6.5 AL or something different?
My instrument's right over here. I'll go check.
Okay, so why is she checking?
She's checking. Yeah, Avery said he's going to jump in. Avery, say something. He actually went down to Columbus and met with Greg and tried out some clarinets.
Yeah, so my clarinet that I had before this was I think I got for like $300. My parents got it for. It was well, this one that I actually have right now is way better. The sound is much darker. It just feels like I can play everything. I can go along with like a feeling of the.
What did you get, Caden? Or Avery, I mean. I'm sorry. What'd you get?
I got a buffet. And
is it like E11 or R13
13.
or what'd you get?
R13.
Yeah, that's a huge jump.
Yeah, very big.
That's a phenomenal horn right there.
Mm-hmm. It feels great.
Yeah, that's like going. Yeah, that's like going from a Honda or a Toyota to like
NASCAR.
Yeah, I was trying to think of Maserati or something. I was trying to think of something cool.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump. And that's kind of what we're talking about. And you probably noticed that as soon as you tried playing it, you're like, wow, this is a definitive difference.
Oh yeah, very. Even when I was in the room trying out the clarinets.
Yeah. Well, Chase, if you want to jump in, I know Chase switched to a
first one that
box
I'll read.
Strat at some point. He's a trumpet player.
Yeah. Honestly, when I switched, I just noticed it was a lot easier, like just to make it really good sounds. And when I switched, I also switched my mouthpiece as well from a 7C with 3C, and
Ah,
that just made higher stuff a lot easier to play, in my opinion, at least.
sure.
Yeah, and you guys may find too, as you upgrade the horn, you'll upgrade the mouthpiece, but you may also find that you'll end up having 3 or 4 different mouthpieces. So depending on what you're playing, if you need a screamer, for marching band or something like that, you may go to a Schilke 14A 4A or something, something that's just, a loud, you can get to a lot of high notes kind of mouthpiece. But if you're going to play in jazz band, that may not be the right mouthpiece for jazz band. You may have to play something different or on something different, and just by changing the mouthpiece, that will change the sound of your horn. Saxophone's the same way. If you're using a hard rubber mouthpiece, switching to a metal mouthpiece is going to make the horn sound totally different.
I like to keep with my super brilliant shoe analogy, but yeah, you wouldn't wear your dress shoes to go out on a jog, and you wouldn't maybe wear your sneakers to a wedding, even though they would both suit the same purpose. They've got different functions, even though they're the same thing.
Right.
And so it's good to have a little arsenal if you can. Now, obviously, money is a factor on those things, but companies have lots of ways of helping parents fund that, or have payments on those sorts of things. But really, if you're working really hard and trying your best and you're not getting the results you want, the two main reasons might be you need some help along the way. You might need some lessons. You might need me or somebody, your Stacy, to jump in and say, try it this way. Maybe we need to adjust that. But the other thing could just be the equipment. So we don't want you to get frustrated. As you get better equipment, and you'll succeed. I'm sure you will.
Guys, and I just want to clarify one thing. By all means, you do not have to upgrade. We're not trying to sell you on that you have to upgrade your instrument. If you can do it, you'll see a difference. You'll hear a difference. You'll feel a difference. And then it'll make sense as to why you did it. But it's not like you have to do it in life. Some things you just, you roll with what you got. Things happen.
I just thought, while I've got somebody else that knows a bit about what's out there, it's good to hear that from different angles and not just from me. We have the binder mouthpiece, and it's a 12C. So, aside from upgrading your trombone along the way, and I've got ones you can try. Perhaps looking at a 6.5 AL would be a nice switch on a mouthpiece too.
Absolutely. And by all means, guys, Mr. Craw has my contact info. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, this is what I do now. So, anytime you guys have questions or concerns or ideas, and you want to know, hey, what about this? Mr. Craw, you had said somebody was interested in, possibly going into business themselves, or things that way. If they want to reach out to me at some point, I'm more than happy to talk to them.
That's great. Do we have any more questions for Greg before he's got to run? If so, chime in the chat, or you can unmute. We've been great about not all talking at the same time. We'll give it a second to see if people are typing stuff. But I did want to thank you, Greg, for taking some time out of your day to come visit with our students. And he's in town regularly, at least once this lockdown's over, because he's getting service over to Mike's for different things he needs, or over here at Ashland High School. So we can get you guys connected if that's something you need. We can definitely do that. Avery wants to ask you something, so go ahead, Avery.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if you mentioned it already or not, but like, what kind of was there like certain education that you had to take for college or something that you had to do before running your business, or was it just that you knew what to do because your parents had already?
So here's a life answer for that one. Know what you don't know. And that'll probably make sense more as you guys get older. But you're not going to know everything. You're not going to know what to do in every circumstance. But there is somebody out there who will. And that's where you gotta kind of research and find out who you can turn to for, to find certain answers for the questions and certain things that are going on. But the big thing is know what you don't know. So if you know some things about music, but you don't really know much about business, then you got to find somebody who knows a little bit about business that can kind of point you in the right direction. Or if you do decide to go into business, you're going to want to find somebody who knows about taxes, because you're going to have a lot of taxes you got to pay. I mean, there's a lot of things that go along with it that you're just not going to know. I mean, you'll learn over time, but even then, stuff changes so much that you really need to have an arsenal or a team, I guess would be a good term. It's good to surround yourself with a team of people that can help you achieve the success that you're looking for. And that's going to look different, for everybody and whatever it is that you're trying to do. But if it's a business thing, you got to find yourself a team that you can turn to get the answers that you need. So you're going to need, maybe find someone that's a business attorney. So in the legal world, just like anything else, the attorneys specialize in different things. So you're going to want to find one who specializes in business. You're going to want to find, a certified public accountant, someone who knows a lot about the taxes and things that you're going to end up having to pay. Because again, those are things that you're just not going to know. So for me, I was fortunate enough to where I kind of had a team almost automatically in place just because of my folks. So we already had a CPA for the family. We already had, some attorneys and some legal counsel. We already had some of those things and sort of in place. So I was fortunate that way. But again, my word of advice to that is just try to figure out and know what you don't know, because there's going to be a lot of things, and then find again a team that you can put together that can help you with achieving the goals that you set forth. The other thing to do is to set goals and be smart about them. And there's analogies and things you can put with that. So smart could mean be specific, have it be measurable, SM, attainable, R and T. R can be
was it realistic?
Realistic maybe, and then I don't remember. But I mean, there's things out there. I'm not, I'm a drummer. I'm not the most smartest person, and out there. But but the big thing is again, know what you don't know, because you're not going to know everything. But there are people out there, and surround yourself with folks that can help you get to whatever it is and help you get the answers that you need.
It looks like we got one final question from Nate. Nate, you want to unmute and ask it in your own voice?
No, but sure. I mean, so I have like some friends that are like full time in the music stuff. How does it affect it, like business wise? Is it still working out to an extent, or is it like?
You mean with the lockdown?
Yeah.
I would say gigging musicians are having a tough time for sure right now. A lot of gigging musicians have found platforms to sell streams and things like that, but their regular Friday night gigs have gone away for a while. I don't know if you've heard from any of your friends, Greg, about that situation.
The short answer is it stinks. I have some friends that is what they do, that they gig. I've got friends in Nashville. I've got friends, all over the country that is their job. They gig. And sorry, my phones are blowing up. Yeah, this is tough. This is extremely tough for them. Here's one, again, a little life lesson kind of thing for you guys. From This is actually something my brother has taught me through the years. When it comes to life and money, it's not about how much you make, it's what you keep. So if you're a gigging musician or you're working a full-time job or whatever, and you're making $100,000 a year, hypothetically, let's say you're making big money, right? $100,000 a year. But you have a super fancy car and a super fancy house and everything else. When things like this happen, you can't afford those. So, some of the working musicians I have, friends that I have, they live a pretty modest lifestyle as well. So even though they're not gigging as much, some of them are still doing okay because they don't live an extravagant lifestyle. And then there's others who, who are having problems. So it's kind of across the board. It's not unlike anybody else that's going through the same things right now. Some people are fine and doing okay. Others are having problems. But again, if anything else, surround yourself with a team, know what you don't know, and it's not how much you make, it's what you keep. That was right. A couple of life lessons.
those are some great words to end our chat on. And so I want to thank you again, Greg, for coming out and saying hi to the kids and giving us some great ideas about things we can do now and then also when we graduate, and keep that music going, whether it be actually gigging or working in a field that promotes that or works alongside of that. So thanks for joining.
It's a great time, guys. It's a lifelong thing. Just because you think that your musical career is going to end at high school, it may not. It may be 20 years from now where you get back into it. But when I had my store, I can't tell you how many students that I had that were retired folks. And they retired from their jobs and they were bored out of their mind. So they're like, I used to play guitar. I used to play this or whatever back in high school and that. And then, went to college, had a family, and now they're back to it. So it may be a few years, but music is one of those things. There's no age restriction to it. You can still do it. We had this old lady that used to come in. Her name was Emma Robinson. I'll never forget her. She was like 83 years old. And she just wanted to play guitar like B.B. King. That was her thing. And honestly, I don't even know if she's still alive anymore. But that was her thing. So there is no age. Music is one of those great things. There is no age necessarily restriction to it. So you can always come back to it at a later point.
Well, thanks, Greg. We'll talk to you
absolutely, guys,
some other time.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Bye. For everybody else on the chat, I got just a couple announcements before we go. One is don't forget about next Tuesday. Let your parents know about the booster meeting. That's at 7 o'clock. That's just going to talk about things for next year. Obviously, we don't have all the answers for that, but we hope to have some by then. If you're in 8th grade, we are also meeting at 6 o'clock just to go over some of those first-time high school band member stuff. And especially because you guys, now that this whole thing has happened, we're going to go to Disney next year, and all of you 8th graders are invited to come. So that's pretty awesome. I know that all the seniors that are on this chat have their video turned off, but they are all shedding a tear right now, and I do feel bad about that. But that is a neat opportunity for the 8th graders. One other thing I want to make mention, yes, thank you, Chase. One other thing I want to make mention is we have a new band website that we're about to unveil. It's not that exciting yet. It's all the same information you're used to. But if you go to the normal band website, ashlandcityschools.org/band, you'll find most of the stuff is gone from there. And there's a link to the new band website. Now, if you're on a school computer or logged in through your school email, it may not work because there's a process I have to go through to get that to work with the school. And once they flip whatever switches and permissions for that, it'll work just fine. They just haven't got it there yet. But the new website, and it's just easier for me to maintain, is ashlandbands.org. I just put that in the chat so you can take a peek. Oh, Kenzie's already done it. Great. And then once they get that all figured out, then if you do click the old link, ashlandcityschools.org/band, it should just directly send you to the new website. You won't have an extra click to do along the way. But it's going to be much easier for me to update that and keep it current and keep it relevant. So we are sliding that over there. And other than that, next week, our chat will be at 1 o'clock because 1:30 worked better for a lot of these special guests, but 1 o'clock works for our next guest. And our next guest on Thursday will be, his name's Jared Hartzler. He's the executive director of the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education, which is the top arts advocacy organization in the state. He actually is the guy who's in charge of promoting the arts, making sure the government provides money for arts education and grants and opportunities all the way from students to grown-ups trying to make a living at it. And we're going to invite some art students onto that, and we're going to invite the choir and orchestra students onto that chat as well, if any of them want to join, just to hear about what's happening in the state with arts and how you can be involved in that as well. Because as we promote what we do, we're helping others promote what they do in the arts too. So that it's going to be an all around, not just music. If you know anybody who's an artist or a dancer or an actor, make sure you invite them to this chat as well, because we want to fill up this chat room with all those people that might be interested in learning about the best ways we can advocate for what we do. So with that, I'm going to sign off unless there's a pending question. If you type in a question in the next 10 seconds or so. Winter band officers being announced. Good question. We've got the list of nominees, and I just need to compile that into a formal Google form where you can officially vote. So that'll probably come out on Monday and then be due by Friday. So we'll probably vote on that next week. Any other questions before we head out? All right, if I don't see anything in the next second, I will sign off and thank you all. And have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you next Thursday at 1 o'clock. Thanks for coming out.